guys, today I wanted to do a video on how and why my son was diagnosed with dyspraxia. So he is 8.5 years old. He was born in 2007. So before he turned 1, I noticed he was late on his milestones. And I'll kind of look down because I got paper down here with notes on it. I got hair in my eye too. But anyways, he was late on his milestones, like flipping over, crawling, setting up, walking. There wasn't like huge delays, but he was behind. So at 1, I brought it up to his doctor, and he said as long as it's not 6 months to a year of being behind, he's all right. So at 2, I noticed he wasn't talking. And at 1, he was saying dada and nana. But one day he just stopped. He would not say another word. So at 2 years old, I brought it up to his doctor, and he said, the only thing he told me was, don't give in to him. If he wants a drink, you make him say drink and not give it to him. I was like, well, this is not going to work because you can't force a kid to talk if he don't know how to talk. So at 2.5 years old, I contacted the early intervention program for the state that we're in. And they set up for a speech and a developmental therapy evaluation. And he qualified for both. They said that, yes, he definitely is delayed in both. And I think his speech was almost a year to 1.5 years behind. So he qualified for that. So he started going to a speech clinic 2 times a week for 30 minutes. And then we had a developmental therapist come into our house for 45 minutes once a week. And we did that for 6 months because after 3, they had to go to the public school system. So, my nose is itching. I have allergies really bad. He turned 3 in June, so August of that year, he started in the public school system. And when he started in the public school system, at preschool, he did speech therapy while he was there. And I think he only went 2 days a week for almost 3 hours, maybe. So that was the way that they do, I guess, their speech and stuff, their therapy there. So when he was 3 and he was 4, he did that at the school district. And then when he was 5, he started kindergarten. So in kindergarten, he did do speech through them. But after a couple of weeks, his teacher was telling me that, or wanted to talk to me about something. And plus, he was diagnosed with ADHD at that point in time. We didn't start him on medication, and we couldn't do the therapy because of our insurance or something like that at that point. So she said she wanted to talk to me. So I met her outside one day, and she was telling me that Caden had trouble with his hands. He's left-handed, and he was having trouble with his hands. And he couldn't hold a pencil right. He couldn't use scissors. So she was talking about setting up, getting him an OT evaluation. So I just went ahead and went to his doctor and asked for an evaluation for it. So she set up a complete evaluation through one of the therapy clinics here in our city. So I went ahead and took him to the therapy clinic. He qualified for OT and speech at that point in time. So he started therapy twice a week there. He was doing OT and speech for an hour and 30 minutes, hour and a half. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he was doing speech and OT at school. So he was doing therapy 4 days a week. So we did that for a while, I think, through kindergarten, part of first grade. I noticed that he was having issues with, the things that he was still having issues with, but also gross motor skills. His running, walking, he was clumsy, he was getting fatigued really easy. He was, some of the things he couldn't keep up with other boys his age. So I went back to the therapist at the therapy place and had him re-evaluated for PT. And the therapist at that, when we did, she said that she thought would qualify because they noticed that even when doing the OT that he was having issues with his gross motor skills. So he did qualify for it. He started it. So he was doing OT, speech, and PT Mondays and Wednesdays, and then at school he was doing OT and speech at school. So we did that for a while, and starting towards the end of first grade, we had Caden in T-ball ever since he was 3 years old. It's something that he loved to do, something I loved watching him do. That was, something that I really wanted him to do. And we had him in T-ball, and he started T-ball at the end of the first season game at the end of first grade. We took him out there. He played really good. We went to leave, and he started complaining about a really, really bad headache. And there was nothing that was helping. Ibuprofen, kids ibuprofen, a hot bath. But finally, he just had to go in our bedroom and go to bed because there was no helping. So I got concerned because, you look up on Google, things that you see what's wrong with your child, and you start seeing the worst possible case of what could be wrong. So I went ahead and called his doctor. She set up an appointment to see him. Then she sent him over for a CT scan and an EEG. EEG was for seizures. His dad and his dad's side of the family has histories of seizures. So, which his dad had them when he was younger, around his age, but eventually grew out of them around his teenage years. So they sent for that. He come back, both the EEG was normal, the CT scan was normal, but the neurologist told me something different from the CT scan. So they went ahead and referred him to a neurologist with the Children's Hospital in Arkansas. So we had about 5-6 months to wait on the appointment because that neurologist is really backed up. So we had 6 months to wait. We went up there. He said he really didn't want to put him on medicine. Wanted to give it another 6 months to see how the headaches go. So we went back in 6 months, and then I brought up all these issues because I'd been talking to the supervisor, therapist there at the clinic that we saw. I did research on the internet about what is wrong with it. And at that point, she didn't know what to tell me. She said, I don't know, really, maybe that's just him. But I didn't take that as an answer to heart because I knew that there's a reason why he was having each of these issues. It wasn't just Caden, like she was trying to tell me. So I brought it up to the neurologist in early 2015. We went back to the neurologist, so that we've been at least 3 times at that point. He told me that he was going to send Caden for a complete physical, cognitive evaluation, all-day evaluation, to see exactly, what's wrong with him. So when I think that place was backed up 7-8 months. This place, I guess, it's for this side of the state, for the I say west side of the state. That's the only place around here. The Children's Hospital in Little Rock is about 3.5 to 4 hours from where I'm at right now. So we went to see him back May of last year, and so he told me he was going to send Caden for an MRI to check to see if, to make sure there ain't no tumors, no brain defect, things like that, and we're still waiting on that evaluation. Which I was going to bring up the CT scan. On his paper that I got from the doctor, from the neurologist, said that they think that maybe the reason what's causing some of his issues, maybe the headache, is there's a small tear somewhere up on his brain. It's not lethal or life-threatening. It's just causing maybe the headaches to be as bad as they are. But we don't know until we get the MRI done. So a couple weeks ago, we had his appointment in Lowell, Arkansas. We had his appointment. They did the evaluation. Took about 30 minutes to go through all the things. I went in there. They told me that he definitely had dyspraxia. He also had ADHD, which we already knew that. He had an unspecified learning disorder and childhood anxiety, which the ADHD, the unspecified learning disorder, and the anxiety all revolve around the dyspraxia. Dyspraxia is a neurological disorder, but it's kind of like an umbrella of what they call global dyspraxia. That there's a lot of things that can be listed under that dyspraxia. So we finally got that. I was able to let his therapist know they're concentrating more on how to work with him with the dyspraxia, changing some of their routines, because now they know it may be a little bit too hard for him, or when they may need to push him more on certain things instead of just letting him give up. So we did that. I learned a lot about it, even though I spent hours researching what dyspraxia was and how to help. After I talked to I think he's called a neuropsychologist. I think that was who that did it. He gave me a lot of insight on Caden. Don't let him give up so easy. You don't give up on him so easy. Um, the only thing that was negative out of that whole situation was he told me that I needed to put him back into public school, which is not happening. Because, and I'll explain it in a different video, it's not happening. I dealt so much crap with that public school, with our public school system here, that it will never happen. He will never go back to this public school ever again. Now, if we move for my husband's job and we get into a better school district, it might happen. But right now, it's not going to happen. So, we did a lot of talking about these issues and things like that. And then I come home and I explained it to my husband, about how things that we're doing are wrong, and then how things I'm doing were right. So that was how we got him diagnosed. I think he's still going to therapy twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, for 2 hours and 15 minutes. He is working on, because he does have problems with gross motor skills. His ankles are really not small, but they're really skinny. They lack muscle tone around his ankles. They're really weak at some points. So they're going to order some ankle supports for his shoes. We also, I think we're being referred to a psychologist up there to talk about the ADHD, see if we can get it kind of taken care of. He don't really have a lot of the hyperactivity part of it, but he does have problems with paying attention, focusing, impulse control, things like that. I'm gonna that was how we got him diagnosed. But now I just want to kind of go over his symptoms of why we thought he had it, why I knew he had it right before he was diagnosed with it. Here's some of his issues that he has. So he's left-handed, and what his therapist said he has lower muscle tone around his shoulders. He has a winged scapula, especially on the left side, and that's the hand he uses. So he has muscle weakness, which is one reason why he can't really use his hands. I think, I'm not sure, we don't put him in shoestring tennis shoes anymore. I just do slip-ons to make it easier for him. But he was having trouble tying his shoe. He still has trouble brushing his teeth. He has trouble writing. Even in 3rd grade right now, his handwriting looks like kindergarten, 1st grade-ish. He has problem buttoning his pants and zipping them. He has trouble with using utensils right. My almost 2-year-old can use them better than him. He has problems brushing his hair, washing his body correctly. He was always falling. he'd just be walking or kind of running a little bit, and he would just fall on the ground. He was always running into things. Um, he would bump into you and then be like, "That's your fault." Yeah. Let's see. He he doesn't think about things before he does it. Same as saying, like talking wise, he will run out in the road and not realize what he did until after he gets it, after he does it. Same as talking. He tries to talk, and the more that he tries to tell you something and it gets locked in up here and he can't think about it. He doesn't know how to express it. Has a problem more with expressive language than he does receptive. But he will constantly repeat himself over and over and over until he can tell you what he's wanting to tell you. Um, let's see. He's 8 years old and don't know how to blow his nose. Yeah. But there's a lot of things that he used to not be able to do that now he knows how to do. Um, and we try to celebrate his accomplishment, whether it's big or it's small. We always make a big deal about it. Always tell him, good job, give him a high five, whee, things like that. Before we started homeschool, he couldn't read, couldn't do math. This is See, I pulled him out in the middle, almost the middle of second grade. 2 months in after second grade, starting second grade, and then this is our first full year of doing it, and we are, I think, at a almost second grade math level, second grade reading level. He does still have issues reading. It takes him a lot longer to read it because he has problems, the tracking with his eyes, which is also a fine motor skill. But he's done a lot better since he's been at home with me, and I'm proud of him. I'm really proud of him. And if you know a dyspraxic, or you know how hard it is for for things to happen the way that you want them to happen. So, but anyway, that's our story on getting him diagnosed and what I noticed before and his symptoms. So, anyway, thanks for watching. See you later.